It's Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Corey and Mason.
Hello, and thanks for sitting down with us. This is our fourth episode of Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast, and I am one of your hosts, Mason Schmidt, here with my good buddy, Corey Knudsen.
Heyo.
As we get ready to talk about all things in the world of movies, we are just a couple of Minnesota boys who love movies a little too much. Tonight, as per usual, we'll be discussing a variety of different topics, including what films we've seen lately, what movies are on the horizon, a little update on some physical media releases, and some current developments in the world of movies. But first, as per usual, Corey, how have you been? Secondly, what are you drinking on the opposite side of that?
I've been good. First of all, I just want to say I'm not bringing back the bark that I did in episode 3.
Good.
It sounded weird when I did it, so I'm bringing back the AO. Maybe someday I'll bring back the bark in a better bark fashion.
Yeah.
Anyways.
This is a rather low maintenance podcast too. We don't go back and really try to re-edit things or
no, we roll
things.
with whatever.
We just kind of roll and send it and hope that it turned out well. We honestly never really listen through a full episode before we post it. So
yeah,
we really just like kind of cross our fingers and hope to God that it turns out.
But yeah, man, I've been good. I know you and I both been buzzing about the new Kendrick album that dropped.
It's insane.
GNX. It just came out of nowhere. It's West Coast as fuck.
Yep.
I loved it. Kendrick's a GOAT.
Yeah, he's the GOAT.
He's on a generational run.
Obviously no one knew he was dropping this, and I'm driving on my way up to Duluth this past Friday, and I'm like, shit, Allie, I know you're on a Wicked kick. I know we just watched this week, and you're in love with the music and the soundtrack, but more important things are on the menu. Kendrick's here, and we need to listen to him.
Daddy's home.
Yeah, Daddy is fucking in the house. Reincarnated is nuts. The entire album, just beginning to end, I was like, wow, this is so awesome, diverse, and Kendrick never fails to make me laugh in his songs too. So
I'll never look at Mustard the same way again.
No, never.
It's so funny. So that was a good little surprise this week. But yeah, as far as what we're drinking today, we got a little double feature for our drinks. So first up, which I started with here, is both are from Ursa Brewing out of Duluth, Minnesota. Great place if you've never been. Really cool atmosphere. Love that place. And so I've got the Snacktime American Lager, and then Mason, you've got the Sauna beer, which is a pale ale.
I believe you mispronounced Sauna. I'm going to go with the correct pronunciation, which I feel like more people are going to side with you, but Sauna.
Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. The Sauna beer, made by Ursa Minor Brewing. I've never been actually into Ursa Minor's brewing building. No, I've never been in there until this weekend, and I walked in, and they have that little case right on that front door where you walk in, you get all the cans just hiding behind the little sexy
talking
glass.
To you like the Green Goblin mask.
Just whispering to you, and it's just like a fat kid in a candy store. You're like, oh, what do I get? What do I pick? And they have like the little 4 recyclable like cans so you can mix and match. I'm like, oh, we're trying shit. Let's go. But yeah, and as it being the Sauna beer being a Scandinavian pale ale, we all know my opinion of IPAs. I don't like pale ales typically, but this so far is delicious. I am a big fan. Ursa Minor, thank you for this. This is maybe going to sway me a little bit more on ales and not be so uptight about them. Maybe actually venture out and try some shit. But going on from that, let's talk about some of the films we saw this past week.
Glicked
weekend.
It
was a great weekend. Corey and I both were able to catch both of these films in theaters this past week. Starting off, I want to shine some light on Wicked, directed by John M. Chu. Obviously starring Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jonathan Bailey, and a perfect Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard. I fucking loved this movie so much. I've been waiting for that big, classic Hollywood modern musical. I feel like it's something that it's a genre that we miss. We get it. I feel like every 1 to 2 years we'll get a new one. It's like, oh, finally we're back, and then another lull, and then we get a new one. I can't remember like the last time I had a musical like this except for maybe Greatest Showman, but that movie had a little bit more of a mixed reaction to it. I love this movie. I think the performances are insane. Ariana Grande was massively impressive. She was the biggest hurdle this film had for me of you need to make me think that this pop star should be in this movie and should be acting in this film. I know she can sing. She's hilarious. She is kind of the comedic foil to Cynthia Erivo, and everything just worked for me on both performances from the two leads here. Obviously, the music's great. It's a Broadway musical. It transitioned and transferred over swimmingly. It's amazing. Jeff Goldblum as the wizard, like I said, is perfect casting. He's so smarmy, and he's so likable, but you're like, you are up to no fucking good. Before I go on for too long about it, Corey, what did you think of Wicked?
Yeah, I also really enjoyed it. I think I mentioned last week that like earlier this year I wasn't that excited for it, but just in the last few weeks I've been building up excitement and happy to say that I really liked it. I think, like you said, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are incredible in this movie. They're not only just their chemistry together, but their chemistry in their singing voices is amazing. That's not as easy of a thing to find, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, just building out this world of Oz was really cool. And the thing that I appreciated most about this movie was the production design, the sets. I know we've talked before about like the train that they use. That is just, it looks so good.
Yeah.
Because it's real.
Yeah.
They actually built it. And it's just, that really does make a difference. And you can tell John Chu, coming from a background of directing some musicals in the Heights and early in his career doing some of the step-up movies, like
Randomly G.I. Joe Retaliation.
yeah, also the best musical of all time.
G.I. Joe Retaliation, clearly with Bruce Willis. But
Yeah, but just you can see that he has that background where he understands how to have this world that you feel like you're in, but also how to stage the choreography and the dance numbers and the singing, and to make it feel so exciting. There's a really cool musical number. I forget which song it is, but it's in a library, and there's like spinning like bookcases.
I think it's Dancing Through Life, and I only think I know that because my wife has been listening to the soundtrack on repeat and singing, which my wife sings amazingly, so I'm very lucky. But I've heard this soundtrack almost through to beginning to end maybe 5 times since we saw this movie this past Thursday. So I'm really just getting fucked in the ears with Wicked, which I'm not mad about. It's just...
It's good, yeah.
And that is such a sweet scene, not to just kind of hijack what you were talking about, but that... The bookcases, the spiral, the ladder, everything, the camera work, the choreography of it, it was just so fun. And I'm like, what the fuck are they going to do next? This is amazing. But I agree with you. The sets are amazing. I think that this is the most fully realized Oz has ever been on film. And for me, I think this is also the best Oz has ever been on film. I'm including The Wizard of Oz. I prefer this to The Wizard of Oz. As someone who loves The Wizard of Oz, I think that this film does so much more with the Land of Oz, has way more depth of character between Elphaba and between Glinda. There's so much there. Honestly, my only gripe with the film, and it came very early, is that first musical number where Ariana Grande is singing. And like I said, the movie kind of had to win me over to Ariana Grande. And it started off on a little bit of, not of a misstep, but she sings beautifully. Her notes are all very high. And with that, I feel like I lost a lot of the lyrics to where I was like, I don't know what this song is saying to me. And I was really worried going from that song into the bulk of the movie. I'm like, please let the music not all be like this. Otherwise, I'm not going to get every word, or I'm not going to get the idea of what the music's trying to say. But thankfully, the music is phenomenal. It's clear, it's fun, it's catchy, and not only that, this film has one of the best. And I don't think this is a spoiler because Elphaba's a fucking witch. One of the best taking flight scenes I've seen in a film since 2013, Man of Steel. When Henry Cavill's fist goes down in the snow and the rocks start rising.
It's so good.
You're like a 13-year-old in a movie theater trying to hide a boner because Henry Cavill's gonna fly. You're like, fuck, this is it. But I didn't get a boner over Elphaba flying, but it was amazing. And
really?
No, I really shouldn't have said that. It's just, there are moments throughout this movie where I didn't cry, but I welled up with tears, and it was just, it wasn't sad. It was just, this is filmmaking. This is why movies are made. This is what a movie on the big screen should be. And watching that, I was so blown away. And her flight and Cynthia Erivo's fucking impeccable vocals, I was blown away. But Corey, unless you have anything else to add to that, I kind of just word vomited for a bit.
No, I just wanted to mention too that like this past week in preparation, I rewatched The Wizard of Oz, which I love, and I wouldn't put Wicked above it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot, like,
how good
maybe,
that movie is.
yeah, like, I don't know, I feel like I just forgotten, and this, like, maybe a oversimplification of it, but how iconic that movie is. Like, every line, every song, like, just everything in that movie has infected pop culture so much where you may not, like, even realize that it has done that. But I love that movie. And then I watched Oz the Great and Powerful, which I wasn't a big fan of. It does some cool world building, but I wasn't crazy about. But just as far as like a couple issues I had with Wicked, I think for me, I really felt the length of this movie. It is 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I think because the Broadway musical with a 15-minute intermission is 2 hours and 45 minutes, and this movie, Wicked Part 1, which they clearly state in the title of the movie. So
it's the very beginning,
They tell you. This movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes. I could feel, especially in the first 2 acts of the movie, the story getting stretched a little bit thin. There were some things that felt a little repetitious that I was like, that I enjoyed. And again, I enjoyed the world that it was in. But I just didn't think the story and the characters had enough to do in that time where I'm like, I get it. We can move on to the next thing. But yeah, so that's really my only flaw with the movie. I'm very excited for part 2. And I think last thing I'll say is just that this feels like a complete movie. It feels like part 1 of a bigger universe, but you can watch this movie and still get a full final experience.
Yeah, and this kind of makes me excited because this is one of the few times I feel like I'm actually going to disagree with you. I did not feel the runtime. It's 2 hours 40. Me and Allie coming out of the movie, we were both like, wow, like 220. Like it felt like we lost some time in there. And I don't know if it's just because the film fully just immediately wrapped me up in it. I'm kind of eager to go back. I'm definitely going to see this again in theaters. I'm eager to see how I feel after a second viewing, if I'm going to feel that runtime more. That is honestly the only thing, the runtime being potentially the only factor that could make a rewatch kind of almost, I don't know, it could be a slog. I don't know. I'm excited to see it for a second time and really just see if my feelings about the movie mature and I'm like, yes, this is amazing. Or I'm like, yeah, maybe we could have tightened this up a bit. No, I loved it. Glicked Weekend has been pretty fun. It's been a little bit over-marketed, trying to like force the Barbenheimer connection. So I'm like, I'm a little tired of it. But for there to be Glicked, there's Wicked, and then there's another movie. Corey, what is that second movie that we watched this week?
We have got the sequel to Gladiator, 24 years in the making, which is just such a long time. I know we kind of previewed it last week, but obviously Ridley Scott came back to direct this movie. This movie is fine.
Yeah,
this
fine.
movie
is massively fine.
Yeah, and I just, again, kind of in preparation, I rewatched the original Gladiator, and I love that movie so much. It is, behind Alien and Blade Runner, my third favorite Ridley Scott movie. I like, everything about that movie works for me, aside from, like, a couple slow-mo shots in the action that I don't care for. Very minor thing. But the score for the movie is something I listen to all the time by Hans Zimmer. The action scenes are great. All the performances are incredible. And Gladiator 2, if you like the first Gladiator movie, this is essentially the same thing again.
Yeah.
It follows a lot of similar story beats. It's a lot of similar characters in the movie. So there's not a lot of surprises there. What I will say as far as like positives for me at least, were the performances by Pedro Pascal and Denzel Washington. I thought those two characters had the most interesting arcs that kind of were different from any characters in the original movie, so it just stood out to me more.
It felt the most new in those characters alone.
Yeah, and Denzel, I know like he's getting a lot of awards buzz for supporting actor right now, and I think he is really good, and he's clearly having fun in this movie.
Yeah.
Like he's just having a great time. So he kind of is behind the scenes manipulating some things, which is fun to watch. And then Pedro Pascal has a good character arc. I won't spoil anything with that, but there's just more to his character than what you initially see in the movie. So overall, I liked the movie, but it's not something I'm going to remember, a few weeks from now and be like, it's in kind of like my middle as far as ranking of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't have the highest expectations. I just wanted a good Ridley Scott film, or at least a decent Ridley Scott film. He's kind of had a rocky track record. The fact that he's an 87-year-old man still directing films is insane to me. And he's making something with as much scale as this film. This film feels massive.
Yeah.
Everything looks great. The CGI gets a little wonky in terms of the creatures and like the tiger and the baboons and the rhinos. That kind of can falter a little bit. But the landscape, the Colosseum, everything feels massive. Kind of what you said, it is a bit of a story retread or a thematic retread of the first film. If you like the first film, you'll probably like this one. I actually, coming out of the theater, I talked to a dude in the bathroom who said that he liked this film better than the first one. I was like, wow, okay, really? He did seem younger than us, which we're not old, we're 24, but like it was like, okay, maybe this worked better for you. Maybe you didn't see the first Gladiator until a certain age. I don't know. But for me, yeah, it was fine. There's nothing I think I really hated. I just knew throughout the movie, I'm like, this isn't special to me. What's happening has been I've seen in a better movie, which is the first movie. And if I was ever going to go back and rewatch one of these two movies, I'm going to watch the first one. Paul Mescal was good. I think he I don't think he was miscast. I just don't think, as the central character of this film, I don't think he was strong enough. The film really forces a lot of like callbacks and connections to the first film. It kind of really harps and relies on that. I feel like to try and make it so great, it kind of was almost to me distracting. A big thing for me also was the score not being done by Hans Zimmer. They do a lot of callbacks to the themes of the first film, but the score just it didn't wow me. It just blended in too much to just being almost nothing. It was the worst thing a score can do is be background music, and to be noticed as background music. The score didn't do anything to heighten the experience.
The best stuff was when they
called
took Hans
back.
Zimmer's themes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there it is. I'm like,
wow.
The rest of
it was a watered down score. Pedro Pascal was the best part of this film for me. I think everyone did great in their roles. I heard a lot of praise for Denzel Washington and the potential for him to maybe get an Oscar nom for this performance. I hope he doesn't. And I love Denzel Washington. He did nothing in this movie for me that I think warrants a nomination for an Oscar. And he might get one because he's Denzel, and he's great typically. And you come to expect that. But when you have that expectation that Denzel is going to be great, and he gives you something that's good, it's unfairly disappointing. But I was like, going in with that expectation that he was going to be amazing, I was left wanting more from him. I was like, okay. I do like his character's role in this film. The Emperor's played by Joseph Quinn, and I don't remember.
Fred Heckinger.
Thank you. I don't know if I've seen him in anything else. Their performances were fine. It felt almost, again, too much like calling back to Joaquin Phoenix as Commodus in the first movie. I'm like, it feels like you're trying too hard. There's some weird bouts of humor. But there's nothing that really ruined this movie for me. I did see it a couple beers deep, and honestly, if anything, that maybe heightened the experience for me. I also saw it on the biggest fucking screen I've ever been in. It was floor to ceiling, and I was like, holy shit, I need to turn my head to see everything as opposed to just moving my fucking pupils. This is insane. So,
yeah,
I'm happy enough with it. I'm happy that Ridley Scott made it, I think, but I don't think it's as memorable as they sought out to have it be.
Yeah, it's a fine swords and sandals movie, which, I mean, in the 2000s after Gladiator, I feel like we got a lot of. And we haven't had one in a while. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, really the last thing I'll say with it is just two things. Like you said, Ridley Scott directed this movie at 87. I think there is quite a bit of energy with this movie, even if everything didn't work. Like, the action scenes, I still think there's some well-thought-out sequences. And they were fun to watch, and I mean, you know, a lot of what you're there for is to see these sweet gladiator fights,
yeah.
and I think they're fine for the most part.
Can I
you want to go to your shark rant?
Yeah, the fucking shark. How do you get sharks into the Colosseum?
You got tanks for
in the
sharks?
Fucking Roman Empire? You got sharks there? That part, there's some leaps of like, all right, you're gonna have to come with us on this story. We're gonna take some leaps that they ask a lot of forgiveness on, and I just could not get with it. The scene itself is like fine, like I liked it, but I just couldn't get past like, how fucking dumb do you think I am to put this in this movie? It baffled me, but still it was a fun time. So it's do you want it to be factual and completely accurate, or do you want to have a good time? There's ways to do both and not completely negate the other, but whatever.
Also, I wanted to just mention one last thing. I don't know if you felt this way, but watching this movie in typical Ridley Scott fashion, it felt like there were scenes missing. It felt like some transitions between scenes felt really quick, and it felt like there's an extended cut that he's going to release of this movie that's like 3 hours.
I just saw a report that the original cut of this fucking movie is 220 minutes.
Well, there we go.
So I don't know, every one of his movies, I feel like there's a cut. There's
a
different cut.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that I get, like, sometimes the vision doesn't line up at the studio. You have to have a different cut, or it's not cut the way you want it, but it's getting excessive.
It just felt, and especially, again, I won't spoil any deaths in this movie, but there are like quite a few deaths that happen, and some of them felt very sudden, where it just like they happened and then we moved on.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want a little bit more with this. I want to spend more time just to settle in with this big character that we've known for a while. And it just felt like there were scenes missing. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me that the original cut is a lot longer.
If they release the original cut and it's 3 hours and whatever 220 is 3 hours 40 minutes, are you gonna watch that?
I would eventually watch it. Yeah, I like this world enough to go back and revisit it, but it's not at the top of my list by any means.
As someone who didn't see Napoleon, I need to ask you: is Gladiator 2 better than Napoleon?
Yes,
Perfect.
yes,
That's
it's better than Napoleon. Again, another movie with an extended cut that I think went to Apple TV Plus or some shit. I don't know.
Moving on from Gladiator 2, we are going to talk about a film that I was very eager to see in theaters, and I didn't know in terms of its release, its rollout, how likely I was going to be able to get a chance to sit down in a cinema and watch it. I got to catch A Real Pain earlier this week, and I was floored by it. It is not Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut, but I think that this is the film that just fully proves that this man can direct. It has his kind of humor that you would expect from Jesse Eisenberg. It stars himself, Kieran Culkin. I don't believe we talked about the synopsis for it, so I want to read that here. Mismatched cousins, David and Benji, David being Jesse and Benji being Kieran Culkin, tour Poland to honor their late grandmother. Their adventure becomes complicated as old tensions resurface while exploring their family history. Now, I have seen this film. Corey has not. I'm not going to get too into it because I really am excited to see how you feel about it. This film, if you've seen Past Lives, if you've seen the other Jesse Eisenberg film, The End of the Tour, which is massively underrated from 2014, if you've seen those films, A Real Pain kind of lives in that world. A very, very real examination of complex, complicated relationships. And this film was riveting. And I might be biased because Kieran Culkin plays a very eccentric character, has a lot of energy, but he wears his heart on his sleeve and his emotions kind of spill out, and sometimes he talks when he shouldn't. He talks when he should be listening, and he doesn't think through everything. And for me, I have members of my family that are like that. And I love that specific member of my family. I don't know if Corey knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just mouthed it to him. He knows exactly
I know
what I'm
before you
talking
said
about.
it. Yeah.
It was so endearing and emotional. Their time together there's a lot of funny comedic moments between Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg, but the movie is a very well-rounded examination of this relationship between these two, their cousins. It floored me. I think it has potential to tap into my top 10 of the films of the year. There's great humor. There's really, really good, authentic and genuine moments of discomfort and hard conversations being had that you wish you could potentially have with your family member if you relate to any of these characters. This film did make me cry. And that, I'm a person that feels his emotions heavily in movies. It's not necessarily the hardest thing to make me cry, but this film hit me in the heart and made me think of this family member that I kind of relate to this Benji character and be like, shit, I need to see him. I need to give him a hug. It really fucking torched me a bit. Also, I wanted to make a mention, because I didn't know this until putting together today's show notes. Emma Stone was a producer. It's an A24 film, but Emma Stone's a producer. That's so sweet to see them still working in and intertwining themselves within each other's career. So, Corey, I know you haven't seen it. What is kind of your expectation? When are you planning to see it, if you are, and kind of what are you hoping for from it?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and see this tomorrow, just because I'm really excited. I love Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin as well. I just started watching Succession, and Kieran Culkin is great in that show, and it sounds like there may be some similar character things between those two. I obviously haven't seen it, so I don't know for sure. But just the two of them together, I think, sounds really interesting. And again, certainly in the awards conversation for acting, at least. I don't know if this one will be in Best Picture and stuff, but really excited to check this one out. And so I think tomorrow I'm going to try and check it out.
I think the writing definitely deserves a nomination here. There's so much nuance to it. There's a lot of like deeply relatable moments that you just surprised me. I was like, I didn't know other people thought this or had this feeling, and I don't know. The one I've heard some complaints from this film. It's getting relatively positive reviews and there's a good reaction to it. But I've heard, as someone who hasn't watched all of Succession, I've watched half an episode and I was like, you know what, this just isn't for me. But from what I have heard, a lot of people have likened Kieran Culkin to his character in Succession, just saying he's doing his same old Kieran Culkin shtick. And I can't really speak to that. I thought he was amazing in this film. I think every actor... There's a good little ensemble of actors, actually, in this film who are on this guided tour with them that are really funny and really good characters. Yeah, I was floored by this film. I can't wait to watch it again. Like I said, it will likely, I think, make its way into my top 10 for this year. I would highly recommend trying to see it. I don't know the extent to its theatrical release, but I would say try and catch it if you can. Next film to talk about is a film Corey saw. Talked about last week a little bit. I finally was able to catch up on it. I saw Honora with Mikey Madison, directed by Sean Baker. I would agree with basically most of the things you said last week. Not to talk for too long, I think Sean Baker, as the writer, director, and editor of this film, needs to find someone that can collaborate with him and tell him no. And tell him to shorten shit. Maybe this doesn't need to be said. Maybe this doesn't need to be here. You know what, maybe make the cut a little bit fucking quicker. This joke has gone on for 20 minutes and it's not funny. This scene is a repeat of a scene that came prior that we don't need, and it gets the same message across that we've already presented. The characters are, like you said last week, are heavily dislikable. The leads, at least. The two leads, Mikey Madison and the man who plays Yvonne. I can't even think to try and pronounce his name. Do you?
I think Mark Eidelstein.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah,
so, and all the performances are great, but the characters are the fucking worst. So it's so hard to toe that line, and I feel like Sean Baker doesn't necessarily successfully do that here. And you had a great point talking before we sat down to record this about making not an antagonist, but making a character that is unlikable, but to make them likable. You were mentioning that about Glinda in Wicked. Mm-hmm. Could you touch on that?
Yeah, we were just having a full discussion about it, and I just mentioned that there can be characters that are not great people, but that can be likable and watchable in something. So I mentioned like Glinda, where she's somebody that's very self-centered and about herself, you know, especially in the first half of Wicked, and even at that time, like, she's still funny. And she's still somebody that you understand who she is. And, you know, even some of the best TV shows of all time, like The Sopranos with Tony Soprano and Breaking Bad with Walter White, they're terrible people.
But you root for them.
You understand them. And, yeah, to a certain extent, you root for them. You understand they're doing bad things.
Oz Cobb and the Penguin.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same deal where, like, if you understand that character fully and you don't stray too far from who they are, you can still make them a watchable and likable character. And yeah, I just don't think they did that with Honora. Mm-hmm. I would agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and the movie's too long. It's 220. It felt 220. It felt honestly longer. I did chuck my watch a lot, and this is coming from someone. I gave it a B in my review. My review's on Instagram. Follow us if you're one of the 5 people listening and you don't follow us on Instagram. Give us a follow. We'd respect it and really appreciate it. But in my review, I gave it a B. It's a positive review. I think the film, for the most part, is well made. It's shot really well. The acting is insane. The supporting cast honestly steals the movie for me. Yeah. They're because those characters are a lot more endearing. They're nicer. They're funnier. Even if they themselves aren't the best people, they have qualities that I'm like, you know what, I root for you. You're great. Mikey Madison is insane in this movie. She gives a great performance. I understand the hype for this film. It won the Palme d'Or. It's likely going to get some sort of Academy recognition, I would expect. And I had this moment after the movie. I was like, I would completely be fine if it got nominated for Best Picture. If it won, though, I would be upset. Because I don't think that this film really compares to a lot of like the really high notes of 2024. There are some really good moments in this film. The ending especially really resonated with me and fucking left me just kind of gutted leaving the theater. It's one of those movies where the credits come up, no one talks, and you just kind of like slowly make your way out the door.
Unless you're in my theater.
Oh, yeah, you had a wild theater experience.
Did I mention this?
I don't
the other
know.
week?
I don't remember. Fucking spark noted if you didn't.
This will be quick. But yeah, I was watching Nora when I saw it a couple weeks back, and there were just some ladies that were chatting throughout the movie. Not super loud, but like, a little annoying, which wasn't great. I didn't say anything to them because they were sort of being quiet. But at the end of the movie, a guy got up after he had previously yelled at them to shut the fuck up earlier in the movie. Credits roll, and even though I didn't love the movie, like I'm sitting thinking with it, just trying to process, like, how did I feel about that? Did I like it? Did I not? And that got interrupted by a guy standing up in the front row, turning around to these old ladies and saying, "Suck a bag of dicks, whores."
Insane.
And they were like, "What? We're so sorry. Like, we didn't realize how loud we were being." He's like, "Shut the fuck up," and walked out.
Which I'm all for. Like, hey, if someone's talking in the phone in the theater, or they're on their phone in the theater, say something. But like, there's an extent of like, you still have to like be nice about it and like have some respect.
I didn't know that you could like say those things to people in public
in real life.
Yeah, I that was just wild. That was a very interesting way to end my Nora experience.
I had a great experience. It was a packed theater when I saw it, and it was, I don't know, it like I said, we left quietly, at least, unlike your experience. I sat in my car, I jotted down some notes, and I waited maybe 20 minutes just in silence just before I drove back home to my wife. I was like, I don't know. And my wife really wants to see it still. I tried to, I'm not trying to get her away from wanting to see this movie. I think that in a thumbs up, thumbs down world, it's a hesitant thumbs up. I think that it's a well-made film to a degree. Again, I think it's too long. There are character decisions that are hard to root for and get behind. But I don't know. I think I'll eventually end up taking my wife to it. Whether she likes it or not, that's out the window. I can't foresee her really loving this movie. She might. Mikey Madison is a very grating character at the beginning. There aren't really many character arcs in the film aside from her. And her character arc is really subtle. And also, I know it didn't really 100% settle or work with you. For me, it, especially in the final scene, it set in. And it hit me pretty hard. And it worked. But I know for you, it was kind of more of like lukewarm. I don't know. Yeah,
I feel like I'm just out of step with every other critic that has watched this movie who is just absolutely loving it and like wanting this to win Best Picture. I appreciate some things about it, and I think I said it before, but like I respect this movie more than I like it.
Yeah.
So it's one that I have not loved as much sitting on it, but or sitting with it, not sitting on it. Pause on that. Fuck. Jesus Christ.
Mikey Madison sitting on it?
Christ. You do see some of that in here. It's all right. Anyways.
Which, honestly, not to be too gross, I think there's honestly too much of it. I could have. That's actually not gross. That's very prudish of me. I wish there was a little bit less sex in it. It kind of got annoying because I think the film felt like, it felt juvenile. It felt just like, haha, Mikey Madison's naked and this guy comes fast. Like, haha, laugh with us. And I was like, all right, I get it. Move on. Like, I don't need it. But anyway. I think, recommend Nora, but it really depends on who you are as a person, whether you're going to like it or not. I'm still kind of torn on it. I think it's a well-made, like I said, to a degree, but it didn't all work for me. I didn't love every minute of it. I actually probably hated more of it than I liked, but it was well-made enough, so it's like, it's a conflict of, fuck, is it good, or do I appreciate it? Do I like it? Whatever. But anyway, moving on. Corey, you got to see one of my favorite films of the year, so I'm excited to talk to you about it. Corey, take it away.
Yeah, I last week saw Heretic, which I really enjoyed. I really like this movie. This is one that Hugh Grant just steals every scene he's in.
He's so chewing scenery.
Good. He has the Jar Jar Binks reference in here.
Right? Isn't that crazy? He calls out Phantom Menace?
Which, like, I think you had told me about that before.
I kind of almost wish I didn't say anything about it, because when it hooks you just out of nowhere, you're like, fuck, what are you talking about?
It's like a part, like in the movie it makes sense, because he has that, and then he has other like analogies to board games and other just really interesting like analogies and metaphors that he uses to discuss religion with the two main characters, played by Chloe East and Sophie Thatcher. And honestly, like, this movie wasn't as big of a horror movie for me. It was just the most interesting parts for me were the conversations about religion and about what is the one true religion. How do you know the one that you're following is the true one? And Hugh Grant just kind of challenging them but then also both of the girls challenging back as well. Both coming back with points I thought was really important, because if it was just Hugh Grant hammering it home the whole movie, it would have got a little stale.
Yeah, and it's like he'd almost become the hero of it, because like they're knocking on his door. They're trying to spread their faith with him, which can be to some people invasive, to have people tell you how to believe in things or what to believe in. But I think that back and forth is insane.
Yeah, it's really entertaining movie. I had a great time with it. Good little horror flick, and just a really cool setting too, like inside the house, and it's kind of like this maze almost. So it was just really fun. Would definitely recommend it if you enjoy horror movies, and even a little bit more elevated horror, I guess it's kind of called now.
It kind of fits into that.
So yeah, big recommend for me. Definitely one of my favorites of the year.
A24 is definitely on a fucking tear this year too. What you said about like it has its horror elements. It's more of a thriller, and it's really based in the dialogue. And then once it starts to show its hand, then you get more of like those kind of quintessential, what you would expect in a horror film. Some almost not tropes necessarily, because I was still like kind of surprised by a lot of the at least the third act of the film. But yeah, what a well written movie. And hell yeah, Scott Beck and Brian Woods. Watch The Haunt. Watch this. Thank God for you guys working on A Quiet Place 1 and 2. Like all this. Like, I'm a big fan. Moving on, I finally, also this week, I had a busy week. I finished The Penguin, which we're going to talk about next. I got A Real Pain, Anora, Glicked, all completed. I was fucking doing my homework this week. But I happily got to sit down and finish the last 3 episodes of The Penguin. And wow. We just got done talking about Anora not too long ago. This is how you make a character you're supposed to hate riveting, likable, fun to watch, but then still be reminded this person is bottom of the barrel, scum to the earth, distrustful, just a fucking, I almost said the fat C word, and I wanted to. I don't know if we can say that, so I'm not gonna say it. He's an asshole. And the way the way this show wraps up, wow. That, I think we can kind of talk spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert for The Penguin if you have not seen it, probably for the next like 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the ending of the show, so check it out if you haven't. We're going to talk about it now.
Because sadly, I had it spoiled for me. I read something talking about Vic's death and how Vic dies. And I knew Oz kills Vic. I knew that going in. And I didn't know how it was going to be handled. I know from talking with you that you were a big fan of how it was handled, so I was like, all right. I was going in expecting him just to shoot him in the head and to have it be like pretty heartless and cold, which would be fine. And I think that's still like, damn, you get the shock value of that. But their conversation on the bench towards the end of that episode, and the conversation of Vic basically saying like, dude, you're my family. Like, you're all I have left. You're family to me. And Oz just slowly lowering his fucking hand around his neck and being like, yeah, what, you know the line better than me.
Yeah, it's like, I think my favorite line from the entire show, and I won't get it exactly right, but it's something along the lines of Vic saying, you're like my family, Oz, that's how I view you. And Vic with his arm around, Oz has his arm around Vic's shoulder, and he's like, family can drive you and give you strength, but fuck if it doesn't make you weak.
Yeah.
And then he chokes him out and just leaves him there, and then takes money out of his wallet. That is awful, and that is again
so
just
low level,
reminding you that he is a villain. And this whole show, all 8 or 9 episodes, whatever it was, we've been following a villain, and you kind of look back on some moments where you're like, oh, he's not such a bad guy.
where you're rooting for him,
and then you think back and you're like, huh, maybe he had some different motivations there. He had his own agenda. It's heartbreaking. Like, Vic is the one character in the show that you're like, I want you to leave. I want you to get out.
'cause you're good.
Like, when he doesn't leave on the bus in, like, the third episode, I think it was, you're like, you see him sitting there, you're like, go, start this life.
For you, this is your best end game.
Like, your family isn't here anymore. Like, go, start fresh. But you see him come back, and it's such a great arc for the character. And I also loved the scene earlier in the finale episode with Kristen Milioti, just having both Oz and his mom, like, tied up on the chairs in the room.
Oh.
And, like, she could very easily, and, like, you may see it in other shows where she would just kill Oz. Just, you know, she's like, that's her main op in the show.
Yeah.
So she's, like, trying to take him out. But she's like, no, I'm going to fuck with him, and I'm going to let you know that your mom hates you, and does not... When his mom also is just like, you're a disappointment, and I am so mad that you are my son.
That, and I've never been on your side. You fucked my life. I could have had you killed, and I chose not to because I thought you would help me in the long run. Because I thought riding the fucking coattails of your success might help me. But it didn't, because you're an asshat, and no one likes you. That shit, typically in that scene, a scene like that, at least I should say, is... like, why doesn't she just kill him? It feels like in any other show, in any other movie, like the classic, like, Goldfinger, like, why don't you just shoot Bond in the head? Why don't you kill Oz in the scene, Krista Milioti? Sophia, fucking kill him. You could just resolve it. But the show is structured so well, and it does such a good job kind of leading up to, like, no, I need you to understand how low you are and how little you matter to the people you think you matter to. That scene fucking floored me. Because I wasn't wondering, like, why doesn't she just shoot him? Like, fucking end the show. Like, you have him in your sights, kill him. And then I watched, like, it never dawned on me. I'm like, she knows what she wants to do. And she's like, you want to know what it's like having a family that doesn't support you? You don't know what it is. Because you have this fucking idea that your mom is on your side. But guess what? She fucking hates your guts. Oh my god.
Also, when she was like, they had the, I think it was like the cigar cutter. She's like, really? You were gonna let us cut off your mom's finger?
Yeah. You're an asshat. You're a fucking
just
roach,
like
dude.
the genuine shock of like Krista Milioti's performance. She's like, you're gonna just let us do that?
Yeah.
Like, she knows that you killed your brothers.
Yeah.
Which, again, that flashback episode is great too.
That's devastating. That, and again, another... You root for this character in 90% of the show, but the 10%, it shows you just the absolute most vile shit that he is capable of doing, and not only capable, happily, gleefully willing to do to get what he wants. Because he's a self-centered guy. He does what he wants because he wants to win. And that ending where they're finally in the penthouse and his mom is in a vegetative state in a reclined hospital bed. And then he's like, yeah, Ma, like, you're here. We did it.
Looking out over the city.
And then he goes and dances with Eve, who's dressed like his fucking mom.
Dude, freaky.
Nasty. You're like, wow, this man is a villain. And this is how you tell a villain story in a way that's satisfying, a way that makes you root for them, but also reminds you he's not the right guy to root for.
I want Batman to come in the Batman Part 2 and just curb stomp Oz so badly.
Oh,
you
my
see
God.
the signal go up at the end, I'm like,
Yeah.
come in and fuck this dude up.
Elegantly, too. I never wanted Batman in... okay, before I started watching the show, I wanted Batman. Because it's like, I want Batman in a Batman-themed Gotham show. Like, it's not wild to do it. That's nice. That's sexy. Oh, I want Batman in the show. And then you watch the show, you're like, Batman doesn't need to be here. This is Penguin's fucking shit. He's got it. Isn't that good? The Pale Ale? Not bad.
Good, yeah.
Not bad. Kind of surprised by it. But love the show. Honestly, there is no structural or overarching issues I have with the show. I did jot down some negatives. In episode 4, that's where we see Krista Milioti as Sophia going to Arkham. And you get kind of her side of the story of what fucking happened and how she got done dirty by her family. There are a couple of performances by the other Arkham inmates that, to me, felt over the top and kind of detracted from the show or took me out of it. Magpie, 45 minutes. We're at 45 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to run long today, buddy. Anyway, fuck. All right. Well, anyway, Magpie was a lot for me, and I get it's kind of in the spirit of the character, but just all the performances didn't really 100% sit well with me in episode 4 with those inmates. I think the facial prosthetics have never shown a single seam or an ounce of, like, it's just so consistent through and through, throughout the entire show, throughout the Batman. Colin Farrell is gone. This is Oz Cobb. Don't fuck with him. And his prosthetics are insane. But with that, I think the fat suit, when he's not wearing a coat or he doesn't have, like, a pointed shoulder, it kind of shows a little bit pillowy in the shoulders when he has just like a t-shirt on, or not a t-shirt, a button up. It looks soft and it looks manufactured and fake. It doesn't look like a real guy to me. I feel like if I touched that, it would be like just fluff. It'd be cotton underneath that. So that, for me, every once in a while when he was just shown in a button-up t-shirt, it just looked a little not convincing to me. This is maybe my biggest nitpick, but also was the biggest distraction for me throughout the entire show. His fucking limp is insane. That man, if he's walking down a hallway that's 6 feet wide, his shoulder's going to hit each fucking wall on a step. Like, this man is bobbling. And I get it. He doesn't have a cane. He hobbles like the penguin. I get it.
Feet are fucked up.
That was also gnarly. To see that, I was like, oh, okay. Like,
grody.
It makes more sense to me. I'm happy you showed this to me. But this dude is fucking pinballing back and forth. Like, holy shit. And and you have this stuttering Vic walking down the street with this just fucking scarred up, fat, mobster-esque dude that fucking hobbles from side to side. I'm like, what a pair you guys are. But yeah, those are my 3 nitpicks. It's the performances in episode 4 from the inmates. It's the shoulders on his fat suit, likely, and his limp. Otherwise, this show...
Great show.
Surprise. It honestly wasn't even a surprise. I'm so happy with how this went. It was so great.
Score is great, too. I want to shout that out. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael Giacchino, for having a son that's almost, if not more
Mick.
talented than you. That's
Hey,
insane.
Mick.
Hey, Mick.
You got a good score there, Mick.
Mick, that's a fucking nice score you got on you. Anyway, we talked a lot longer than I thought we would about the Penguin, but I'm, again,
Worth
it. Way worth it. Floored by this show.
So good.
Let's go into some of those new releases coming up in November of 2024, late November, for Thanksgiving weekend. We have Moana 2 coming out, starring... And I wrote the pronunciation so I didn't get this wrong.
Kill this,
I'm
dude.
so worried. Ali E. Carvalho.
Dude, that was sweet.
That is the voice actress for Moana. We have Dwayne Johnson, Alan Tudyk as Hey Hey, just pecking a board and fucking chirping, and Tamara Morrison. The synopsis for this film reads: after receiving an unexpected call from her wayfinding ancestors, I can see you dying.
Just pecking a board is a wild phrase.
Let's peck board, brother. Moana must journey to the far seas of Ocean. How do you say that word?
Oceania?
Thank you. I can't read, apparently.
It's Moana. You know, they're on the seas and they're doing shit.
Yeah. Long lost waters for an adventure unlike anything she's ever faced. I didn't need a second one. I'm sure it will be good. I will see it probably opening night, like the Tuesday night, since it is a holiday week coming up. Honestly...
I love the first movie.
Yeah, the first movie's fantastic.
Really, really fun. Like, pretty surprised by that one, and I think it's an interesting world where like having a sequel could be fun. I just think it's going to be pretty similar.
I think it's going to just be more of the same. But you can't underestimate and kind of undersell how profitable and how big this franchise is. What, 6 years after the film's fucking released, it's still like one of the #1 streaming movies. Currently, like, it's insane. This animated film has pull, and I love the first Moana. It's one of my feel-good movies, and that shit makes me cry just because there's a light where the sky meets the sea, and it fucking calls me. Oh, my pants are wet. Oh,
damn, bro!
You didn't think I was gonna pull that off?
Crazy work.
Yeah, it's insane. I fucking love the first Moana. That movie makes me so happy, but it's kind of disappointing that I'm going into the Moana 2 like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna go see a sequel to this movie I love. Which I've had a good track record in the past of a long pause, long kind of wait in between sequels to an animated classic, and we get a sequel, and I really like the sequel. Like The Incredibles. I loved The Incredibles 2. Monsters University, I loved. I don't have really a lot of reservations about this film being great, except for potentially Lin-Manuel Miranda's not here to be the core kind of songwriter, leader of the score. He's not here. He's absent. So, and I don't love Lin-Manuel Miranda as a singer. I love his songwriting, but to have him not involved kind of makes me like a little trepidatious about what the quality of this could be and what the songs would be like. So, yeah, I'll see it opening night, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I'm really excited just for the box office this weekend with Glicked, and then with this upcoming week. And I think Moana 2 is going to make a billy. Like, I think it's
gotta.
It feels like it's going that direction, which is incredible that like these 3 movies are coming out and getting people excited about the movies. Which is
dicking
sweet.
down the box office. Just
that's
really
right.
Grinding her in.
There you go. Yeah, you're on something today.
I am. I'm really excited.
When he gets excited, he gets horny.
Yeah. It's a good thing you're on the other side of the desk, dude.
He touched me with his feet underneath. Just no socks on it. Before we
socks,
started, he
just
said, I would take my
toes
socks off. And I was like, all right. Whatever.
Yeah. But anyway, Moana 2.
Yeah, speaking of another movie that's going to make $1 billion, we've got Maria.
And it's limited release.
If you haven't heard of this movie, wouldn't be surprised.
I also didn't until today.
Yeah, so it's directed by Pablo Larraín. who has made some really good biopics in the past with Jackie and Spencer. And then last year he made El Conde, which got a Best Cinematography nomination. Which, it's a good-looking movie, but it's, story-wise, it's okay. Yeah. But yeah, like Mason said, it's getting a limited theatrical release on this weekend, and then it's going on to Netflix on December 11th. The movie stars Angelina Jolie in the final days of Maria Callas, who is known as one of the world's greatest opera singers. I don't know anything about Maria Callas, if I'm being honest.
No idea.
I think I've maybe heard the name in passing, but it's, Angelina Jolie, this feels like one of those movies where the one nomination for this movie could come from Angelina Jolie and maybe like one other like costume designer, something like that. So I enjoy Pablo Larraín's work, especially Jackie and Spencer. Those movies are pretty great.
Jackie's very underrated.
Yeah.
It got some awards buzz when it came out, I think in 2017.
Yeah.
I'm gonna loosely throw that out there. I think that movie's great. I love Natalie Portman in that film. I think it's so pretty to watch, and it's very devastating, but it's just such a well-made film. I liked El Conde. Spencer's pretty good. I've never disliked one of his films, so now knowing about this film, I might go and check it out. I don't know if I will be necessarily seeing it in theaters. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not at the top of my list right now. A Real Pain is kind of the one I'm clocking into this week, but just the fact that he's directed both Natalie Portman and Kristen Stewart to Oscar noms in his past couple biopics gets me excited for it. And even if it doesn't get nominated for a bunch of stuff, I am still actually kind of intrigued by this movie just to learn about Maria Callas. Honestly, I love learning just about history through movies and then going back and like reading up on it about real life stuff and how they changed it for the movie. So I'm curious about it.
I think we've kind of had a dry spell for Angelina Jolie too. She was in Eternals. I don't know what she's really been doing a whole lot.
Voicing something in Kung Fu Panda movies?
Potentially.
Tigress? She did Tigress.
Is she Tigress?
I think so.
I didn't see Kung Fu Panda 4, so for me it didn't happen.
I don't remember if she was in that movie. I think she was.
I think she was. Her
Maybe?
and Jack Black. Anyway, I'm excited to see her back in a film. I made a note here. It's written by Stephen Knight, who is the writer and the creator of the TV show Taboo, Taboo. Taboo. I don't. That made it sound like a Lion King character.
That made it sound like the Abu from Aladdin.
Or that.
Yeah.
Fuck that show or that movie. Anyway.
Fuck you.
Okay. Anyway, Stephen Knight. It's written by Stephen Knight, who made Taboo. Suck my dick, Corey. He also wrote one of my favorite films of all time, Locke. So with him writing and you got Pablo Larraín directing, I have something here that I'm like, you know what, I am interested in, even though I heard about it less than 2 hours ago for the first time. So excited there. Moving on to another film getting its wide release, I think. Directed by Luda. If Luda directed this?
Watch the shit out of it.
Directed by Luca Guadagnino is the film Queer.
Describes you pretty well.
Wow, that's nice of you. Starring Daniel Craig, who is one of my favorite actors, Drew Starkley, Leslie Manville, and Jason Schwartzman. Synopsis reads as such: Lee recounts his life in Mexico City among American expatriate college students and bar owners surviving on part-time jobs and GI Bill benefits. He is driven to pursue a young man named Allerton, one of those, who is based on I should have looked
You're
at this.
killing the synopsis.
Adelbert
right now, big dog.
Lewis Marker. Anyway,
Attaboy.
it's a film that Luca is just pumping these fucking films out, which is insane. He had Challengers. He's got another film potentially already on the horizon. He's moving quick. But I'm excited to see a film that, coming out this year, could maybe get Daniel Craig an Oscar nom. At least that is my hope and my just one thing going into this film. Like, I want Daniel Craig to just fucking chew and just to kill this movie. So, I don't know about you, your excitement level. It's another A24 film. They've been on a bender of a year. I'm hoping for high things. I'm expecting relatively good things. The trailer's a little trippy. What about you, Corey?
Yeah, I know you didn't see Challengers, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so I saw that earlier this year, and I really liked it. I thought that it was a really cool movie. I had some issues with like how the story was told and just the framing of it, but really impressive film. So this one's interesting. I, too, love Daniel Craig, so I'm excited to check it out at some point. Again, I don't know if I'll see it in theaters, and I don't know how widely it's going to be playing. I think this week is like one of its first weekends in release, so maybe kind of slow rollout for it. But certainly interested. He's always making good stuff. Call Me By Your Name's great. Also.
Yeah, that is this is actually the award for the only movie I've ever sat down and watched back to back. The first time I saw it, I watched it illegally on my computer because I heard so much about it. And then as soon as the movie was finished, I started it back up and just went back and watched through the entire movie. I love Call Me By Your Name. That's one of my favorite romance movies because I think it really encapsulates kind of the
Timmy and the Peach.
Timmy and the Peach.
Timmy and the Peach.
That's what I want. In a romance movie is Timmy fucking a peach. But anyway, was it a peach or an orange?
I think it was a peach.
Okay.
There's some fuzz on it.
It was an orange fruit or a yellowish fruit. Anyway, but it's one of my favorite romantic movies because I think it encapsulates the good and the bad that goes into relationships. I love that movie. So Queer, I'm gonna be seeing if I can find it in theaters. I'm gonna be trying to get a showing to it pretty quickly.
Also,
here.
Michael Stuhlbarg in Call Me By Your Name has one of my favorite speeches.
Oh, yeah.
Like just little monologue moments.
At the very end with his,
yeah.
It's
just so great. Definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it. But going into physical media stuff now, pretty quiet week here. The only thing, I mentioned it last week that I ordered Peacemaker Season 1, and that's still in the mail. They said it was delayed, so I don't know what the fucking Walmart people are doing. But I got Air Force One, the 4K Steelbook, and there was a huge fucking scratch on it, man. I was so mad. So I'm going to try and get another copy of it or have them refund me or something.
Another huge issue of a lot of stores not carrying physical media anymore is that you have to gamble ordering it online, and then you don't get to be the judge of the quality of it before you leave the store with it. You just have to order it and hope that they're like, you know what, here's a good copy of it, here you go. Otherwise, you get a scratch on a steelbook, you get the shitty adhesive on the spine of a Blu-ray, or a fucked up slipcover, or no slipcover. So that is another big kind of really nitpicky gripe that I think you and I share, that I think outside looking in, people would probably laugh at us for. But when you and I go shopping together, at least at the few places that still offer movies in store, you and I are just like fucking almost smelling these goddamn movies to make sure that they're good. But anyway, I picked up maybe my go-to Thanksgiving movie from here on out, Eli Roth's best film, Thanksgiving. I picked that up. I got the 4K Steelbook. It is sexy. The packaging is pristine and perfect. It comes with a little letter written by Eli Roth, basically just saying, like, thanks for buying this, thanks for seeing this, thanks for supporting this. This is a film we put everything we could into. It's a great release, and I'm so excited to watch this on Thanksgiving Day in the next couple of days. So I picked that up. Happy to have that as part of my collection. I also grabbed Anyone But You, which is the Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell romantic comedy, I think from last year, which it's not
fun movie.
It's such a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's not an all-time classic romance movie, but it's a film that I loved watching. I saw it with my wife in theaters, and any movie that me and my wife see in theaters is automatically kind of special to me. And she gets to look at Glenn Powell while I get to look at Sydney Sweeney. So it's a great time.
Win-win.
It's such a good movie. And it's fun. And it's the comedy's good. It's well written. It's loosely based on Shakespeare. So it's like, I can kind of use that as like this is the reason why my little fucking head up my own ass pretentious film buff bought this movie. But it's just such a fun, happy movie. And it's a good watch. Moving on to some movie news that has kind of dropped throughout this past week. Corey, what do we have in terms of new trailers?
So we've got a few that dropped this week. First one being the live-action How to Train Your Dragon, which is coming out next year. I love the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. I think all three movies are great. I really, really do love them. The trailer, like, if those movies didn't exist and I just saw this trailer, I'd be like, oh, wow, that looks really good. But I don't need this movie. It feels like they're trying to sell like an advertisement for their like Universal park of, I think it's Universal, right? I don't know.
I think so.
Whatever the How to Train Your Dragon like park is that I think they're doing now. It just feels like that. I don't know. I don't. How do you feel about it?
I'm massively uninterested in this film just because I think the animation is perfect. I love the trilogy that they have currently. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is my favorite of the trilogy, but it doesn't really matter. I don't know, this trailer I've seen online and with my wife even, because she's a big fan. The trailer worked for a lot of people. For me, it was just like, wow, I've seen this already in the animation. I have no desire to see this in person, in theater, ever, really. I don't need this movie. It's like when they made the live-action Lion King, which, hot take of mine, which I know you hate, I think the animated original Lion King is an ass movie. So I don't care about the live-action remake, even though it's live-action, in quotation, CGI animated bullshit. Don't like those. So I'm just really tired of this kind of trend of taking this animated classic and let's put it in live-action. I don't need it. It looks like a story retread. I'm happy Gerard Butler's back. But
he does look cool as a Viking. That's perfect.
He looks great. But I don't need this movie. I don't care to see it. I'm sure I will end up seeing it just because my wife's a huge fan. But I don't know. It's nothing I'm going to be counting down the days still. It's something I'm like, you know what? I hope it kind of comes and goes. I want this movie to do well because I want every movie to do well, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, well, we'll get back to The Lion King some other day. That's a
different
discussion.
Fucking yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing to improve on with the original How to Train Your Dragon. Like, there's no reason for that movie to be remade. A couple other trailers that dropped this week. We had Elio, which is the newest Pixar movie coming out next year. Looks like a fun little like space kind of I don't know, an original idea, which I appreciate. They've had a little bit of a struggle lately with some original ideas like Elemental, Turning Red, Luca. I mean, some of those were like COVID stuff too, so it's a little bit different. But they've just some of their original stuff hasn't caught on as much. But I think it looks okay. You excited for that one at all?
No.
Cool.
It's just, I don't know. It looks like Luca in space. And I didn't even watch Luca. So, like, it's coming very from an outside perspective of someone that doesn't know their shit. I have no interest in it. I'm sure if it's good, I will probably go and see it. I love a lot of Pixar movies, but I didn't see Luca. Actually, Turning Red was great. But Luca didn't work for me because I didn't see it. Yeah. It didn't sell me, honestly. Yeah. I just didn't see the desire in going to see it or trying to watch it even on Disney+. But I don't know. I'm sure if it continues with like the majority of Pixar films, it'll probably be good to great. So maybe if I hear good things, I'll be won over. I'll fucking watch the trailer because I haven't even done that yet. But yeah, jury's still out on Elio. I think going to space in a Pixar film could be cool. I actually was one of the few people I think that liked Lightyear.
I enjoy that movie a lot too.
Yeah, I think that movie's a little underrated. So I like how they've handled space so far. I'm interested to see what they do next, but like I said, I wasn't even interested enough yet to watch the trailer. So
yeah, kind of the last trailer this week was the Minecraft movie, which I don't even want to talk about that long, just because like trailer just doesn't look interesting to me. I've never played the game. Don't really care about this movie.
I have played Minecraft. And the Minecraft, I used to hate on my older brother for playing it. I was like, dude, play literally anything else. Anything with the story. And then I sat down and like, it's addicting. It's like playing Sims. It's so fun. And it's something I used to shit on a lot as a kid. But now I'm like, oh, Minecraft, like playing Minecraft is really fun. And it's just, it's a good like stress-free play. There's not, unless you're playing survival mode, which I never did. I'm a pussy. I'm just going to play like, I'm going to build a house, and I'm going to go look at trees, and I'm going to cut a hole in the fucking mountain. That's all I'm going to do. I didn't watch this trailer because I watched the first trailer, and I didn't feel like I should watch this trailer. But, Corey, is this trailer any better than the first trailer?
It's just longer.
Okay.
There's just more of things that I just don't understand and don't care about.
The cast is the only thing that would get me into this theater at this point. You have Jack Black and Jason Momoa, and I'm like, there's so much potential there.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. I don't know if I care.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah. So moving on from the trailers, we also had a little kind of tidbit coming from an interview by Collider. James Gunn confirmed that there will be R-rated scripts and R-rated productions and films that will be a part of the new DCU, which it doesn't necessarily. It's not a requirement. Good movies are PG-13. There's good movies that are rated R. It doesn't really matter what the rating is, but I'm kind of excited to see a little bit more of mature storytelling, especially after getting the first Joker. Batman is the Batman isn't rated R, but it has that kind of dedication to the more serious, the more adult tones of it. So I kind of eagerly await seeing more rated R work. What do you think?
Suicide Squad.
Oh my god!
James Gunn.
I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
That's rated R, obviously, and it's great. Peacemaker, I think that's actually one of the better shows in like the past decade. I really like that show.
Also, within that, they announced Peacemaker will now be officially canon in this DCU moving forward, except for basically that one scene of where the Justice League shows up. Which
fine, perfect.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how they try and write that out. As someone who hasn't even finished the first season of Peacemaker, which sounds like I don't like the show, I loved everything I saw. I'm just really bad at watching TV shows.
Yeah, it's great. I'm curious to see with Superman kicking it off next year to see what this DCU looks like.
What rated R film do you think you could expect? What's a superhero do you think that would be a fun rated R film?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm thinking like, what if Aquaman is rated
like
R?
Aquaman rated R?
Just fuck you, Seahorse. Just dumb shit. Just like,
yeah.
Get over here, octopus. Get on me.
That'd be, wow, tentacles and all.
Everything.
Fuck.
I don't know. The suction just sounds nice.
Yeah. All right. Well,
all right. Wow, just dead. That ended it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the end of the. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. All right.
No, I don't know. Rated R. I'll have to think on that, and maybe we'll do like a DCU like
Kind of
excitement
deep dive,
and
yeah.
like how excited we are for each project and see there. Just another little note, box office wise this week. We got some unofficial numbers that came in. Obviously, they won't be like finalized until Tuesday morning, but Wicked looks like it's going to open to around $114 million, and Gladiator 2 looking to be around $55 million, which, amazing, great.
Yeah.
Bring the box office back. We've needed it. It's been a little bit of a slow, dry spell for a bit, so even if like Gladiator 2 is still okay to me, and Wicked I think is really good, it's just great that both movies are doing well.
That and it's really good counter programming to have something like musical. It's going to attract a completely different audience than the people that are going to go see Gladiator 2. Yeah, I'm completely fine. Sorry, as I just get that out.
Nice. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
gearing
me
up
trying
over
to
there.
swallow that burp so I don't say it, or don't have it slip out while I'm talking. Yeah, I'm really excited by those numbers. I'm happy when movies do well. I think, like, yeah, Wicked won the weekend, but I'm not, like, it's not, like, bad that Gladiator got 55. That's a good number for it to start with. I'm hoping both movies do good. I think Wicked might likely have longer legs because it is, I think, in my opinion, a better film.
And a more family movie, too.
And we're getting into that time of year where people want that more of like a family style film. So I'm excited by it. Love Wicked. That's great numbers. I'm excited to see what the actual numbers are on Tuesday and just kind of see where we go from there and see how both of these films kind of hold up in their second weeks of release. Another thing, just since we're running kind of long on time, I'm going to include it, but we're gonna breeze through this part a little bit quick. Fantastic Four, which is a film MCU-wise, Corey and I are both super stoked for, and I am the only person on earth that loves the Miles Teller Fantastic Four film. Fan-four-stick. I fucking love that movie. I think that movie is underrated. But anyway, Fantastic Four, the MCU, has officially released a synopsis, and I will read that to you now. Set against the vibrant backdrop of a 1960s-inspired retro-futuristic world, Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps introduces Marvel's first family, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, Johnny Storm, Human Torch, and Ben Grimm, The Thing, as they face their most daunting challenge yet. I think that that's a safe synopsis. Good.
I mean, I love the retro futuristic stuff.
Yeah.
That's the most interesting thing to me. This is my most anticipated movie for next year.
All year, not
Yeah.
even comic book
Yeah.
shit. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm excited for it, but I don't know if it's. I need to like sit down and really think about it. I like the part that really works for me is the 1960s inspired, and like I think that they've kind of come out and addressed that it's not part of necessarily the MCU kind of current proper like this is our universe timeline. It's a little bit adjacent to that, and I'm sure that somehow is going to merge in, bleed in somehow. But I like that it addresses that 1960s aesthetic and it's retro futuristic and it's. I don't know. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to see what we have with it. I love the cast. I'm a little surprised by the Pedro Pascal casting. We never really got to talk about that because we started this 4 weeks ago. But yeah, I'm really intrigued by the cast. Surprised by some of them. I'm excited to see this movie. RDJ is Doctor Doom if he shows up. That's I think pretty interesting and cool. So
Paul Walter Hauser's in it.
Paul Walter Hauser
The
is
GOAT.
in this movie and every other fucking movie coming out in the next 3 years based on just how often this dude's getting work. His agent is fucking rolling
He's
in it.
great.
Doesn't matter.
Love
Yeah,
that man.
He's great.
Yeah. So no, I'm really excited for that one. Can't wait to get a little trailer. Hopefully soon. That'd be nice. We got some for the other Marvel movies, so looking forward to that one. Final thing, our movie rewind of the week is my second favorite Toy Story movie, Toy Story 2. This is the sequel, obviously, to Toy Story, second chapter of the 4 that we have now, 5 to be, is that 5's coming out in 2 years or something?
I don't care.
Yeah, cool.
Don't need a fifth. Don't need a fifth.
Yeah. But this came out in 1999. You got the usual cast of characters. You got all the, you know Toy Story. I don't need to explain to what Toy Story is. I love this movie. I think it is such a great way to build off of the first movie, to explore the world more. Going to Al's Toy Barn is so much fun. You get Prospector Pete. You get Jesse in this movie, who's a great character. It's hilarious. Like all 4 Toy Story movies are great.
Yeah, there's not a misstep in the single franchise. Toy Story 2, for me, is my favorite of the franchise. I think Prospector Pete, played by Kelsey Grammer, is my favorite villain of the franchise. That's including, obviously, Lotso, Love and Bear, but Yeah, Kelsey Grammer kills it in this movie. I love that deep dive into almost both character, which is weird to say character because it's Toy Story, but both characters' backgrounds. You get a little bit of like the way the film opens when you see Zurg and you see Tim Allen and kind of like that more typical Buzz Lightyear role. And then you get Tom Hanks as Woody and his background, what he's from, and you get all those characters that come with it. I love this movie. This is a movie I had on VHS. I had that clamshell. That shit was hot as hell. Watched that movie so many times. I think that this is the best paced of the Toy Story movies, even though that the first one's shorter and it's really concise. I think this one's better paced. I think the villain in this is amazing. Yeah, they're also the most satisfying most satisfying scene potentially in film history of Woody getting repaired by that old ass.
Oh, dude.
Oh, and he's getting stitched up.
Painted on his boot there.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
Wiping the eyes.
It's with a Q-tip?
Oh.
It's so good. I love Toy Story 2. I think it's the best of the franchise.
How would you rank them real quick?
I love 4. Actually, I know more than you, more than most. I go 2, 4, 1, 3. I think, which a lot of people have the third as their favorite.
Yeah, so. that's mine. So I would go 3, 2, 1, 4. But 4 I actually really like more on a rewatch. So I think all 4 are great.
Yeah, there's no misstep. Toy Story 2 is great. It's wild that it was November 24th. So literally to this day, 25 years ago, this movie came out. We weren't alive. That's fine. Honestly, I think the world was probably better when I was not alive yet.
Yeah,
so
same here.
But anyway, great movie. Love Toy Story 2. I'm not terribly excited for Toy Story 5 just because I remember when they announced Toy Story 4, and granted, I now love that movie. I was like, don't need this. This franchise has had its perfect ending in Toy Story 3. I don't need a fourth. And now fourth came along, and I'm like, wow, that's very like adult of it to just like further the franchise, but also to show Woody's kind of point of view from moving on from Andy. I'm like, wow, this is like really good. And like, as a kid being able to grow up with this franchise, it feels like the logical next step. But now it's Toy Story 5. And now we're getting into toys versus the iPad era and like technology. And I'm like, I never actually wanted to see this in a Toy Story film. So
if they do it right, it could be good in a solid edition. But yeah, much like you, I don't really need a fifth one.
I have confidence in it just based on their track record. But I don't want it. I'm eager to hopefully be surprised by it. But yeah, Toy Story 2, 25 years ago, love this film, lucky to have been able to grow up with this franchise. Don't need a fifth one, but you know what? I'm likely going to be first in line, first night of opening, seeing this movie, or that fifth movie. So yeah, it's a film franchise that holds a special place, I think, in both you and I's heart.
For sure.
Also, Tim Allen. I fucking love Tim Allen. I wish Tim Allen was in everything. I remember distinctly watching like Nick at Night and shit as a kid, watching like Home Improvement. Oh, yeah. I love Tim Allen. So
Santa Claus.
Ooh, yeah, good. I mean, decent franchise, I guess, kind of. But anything with Tim Allen, I'm gonna watch it. So I'm really excited that we were able to talk a little bit about this film, even though it is a little bit more of a condensed version, just because we are way the fuck over our time. Kind of
a Glicked weekend. I expected it to be beefy. Plus the penguin stuff.
Yeah. Glicked dicked us down. So anyway, thank you everyone for sitting down with us, all two of you, and having some drinks. On our fourth episode of Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram for more in-depth movie reviews and movie news. And subscribe, if you would, to our podcast. In the world of film, it's not just about what happens on screen, but also about who's sitting next to you in the theater. So from Corey and I...
Mustard!